Hello and welcome to the Presenter Mastery Podcast. I'm Lucas, CEO of Headgain and amateur speaker.
Oh, and I'm David, the expert in this case.
And together, we're your weekly guides for unlocking the power of presentation skills. And in today's episode, we did something special. We dove into the community of Presenter Mastery, our core program for working on your presentations. And we asked our community to send in questions and topics for what they wanted to hear more about in the podcast. And this episode is from Jonas Brissel. Jonas is a software tester and an educator, and he does a lot of workshops. And presentation skills is used in workshops, it's used in meetings, it's used when speaking to another person, wherever you are. So in today's episode, we're going to dive deeper into how David handles workshops and how you, David, think about it when presenting in a workshop setting.
Yeah. Smashing. Well, my predominant setting when it comes to workshops is allowing and making people grow in presentation skills. That's my subject. So let's define the difference. Keynote, I'm on stage, there's 1,000 people in front of me, I'm up there for 20 minutes, I command every single word. Maybe I do one or two exercises, a hand raise or something like that. So that's your keynote. And then you have the workshop, which is quite different. But it can actually be conducted in the same setting. It could be with 1,000 people, and it could be from me on stage. So the difference in that case is that you allow people to learn, practice, and apply what you're going through. That is the definition of the workshop. So the question then is, what have I learned after doing this for the better part of 26 years? God, that's a long time, Lucas. I have delivered thousands of keynotes and thousands of workshops. And about 4 years ago, something clicked. Something happened. I did something that I didn't usually do when it came to workshops. And that is that during my majority of my career, I had like a set agenda. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Those were the steps. And that worked great, you know. And for all of those who do still do this, what I learned best from that is to have like a visual checklist on the wall so that you can go check, check, check for each subject that you go through so that it becomes very clear and precise. And people love this. They love the thread of that. So in a workshop, here's your 10 bullets, checkbox, and every time you completed one, go through it. Until the end of the workshop, and all of them will then be completed. Okay, that is for clarity. But what I learned now 4 years ago was that is not very efficient. It's not really adhering to people. Like, is every single group the same? No. They're different. Does every single group need the same thing? No. So, why are workshops built from 1 to 10? Well, 4 years ago, I stopped doing that. And I just went into the workshop and I listened in. I heard what they needed. I adjusted my content specifically for that particular group, which meant that maybe I started with number 8 and then number 6 and then number 4, and I entirely skipped number 3 and 5, and then I went for 9 and then a 10, and then I ended with the number 1 because that is what they needed. And Lucas, the flow of that is just insane. The growth was insane. There was no period of time where people got bored or where the content wasn't to their liking. It was just spot on because it was constantly adjusted based on where they were and where they needed to go and their continuous feedback during the day. So I'd say that my biggest learning, and I did this, I guess, wrong, within quotation marks, for, 22 years. But the changes, the outcome is probably 100 to 200% more. So quite the difference.
So how do you, when you go in and, so you basically still keep your 10 steps?
Yeah.
in this, you know, like these are the tools I need, and or can use in this workshop.
Yeah.
And then how do you define then, just out of curiosity, for a presentation skill workshop? You come in, you're going to teach them how to be brilliant presenters in this room. You got 2 days. Where do you how do you decide on which step to do first?
Well, I usually start the workshop by sitting down, asking them like a set of questions, maybe 5 to 6 usually. What kind of presentations do they do? What are their issues? What are their problems, challenges? What would they like to achieve? And I drill down into those challenges, because usually they don't really know what their challenge is. But when they say the challenge, I ask another follow-up question until I figure out what their actual challenge is. And then with that, I adapt the content in real time. I think I was scared of this before. The reason I stuck to the 1 to 10 agenda was that it was comforting. And I knew that it worked, and it was safe, and I knew where I was going to go next. Because now I can literally come to step 3 and I'm like, wonder what step 4 will be. Wonder which one is the best. But then I'm actually just open with the group. Now we've come this far. I just need 5 minutes to figure out what the absolute best step for you is next. Let's just take 5. And then when they come back, I'm like, okay, I've got it. Boom, 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 boom. And not being afraid of showing that you put that effort in, because that's actually a show of that you're caring and not that you're not professional. So thoroughly enjoy that. You can't do this with 1,000 people then, because you can't listen in to them.
A little bit harder.
Yeah. So this usually applies to like 10 to 20, maybe up to 40 people.
Yeah, and it's for someone starting out doing their first set of workshops, doing the 1 to 10 is probably easier to start iterating, finding what really works, what gives people the outcome that you are wanting to give them.
Yeah.
And then once you've done that enough times where you see the patterns and you know that you can actually strip out certain things, then you can start applying a more consultative approach in the workshop as you're doing now.
Probably, yeah. That's probably why it took me quite a while to get there. But the reason I got there was actually because of my own journey in this self-leadership, when I hacked my depression 7-8 years ago. And I learned so many tools while doing that, so many tools. And I learned about this particular tool called focus questions. So focus questions are the questions you ask yourself on a daily basis. And the questions that are of a negative character, they fuel your negative substances, right? So cortisol, adrenaline, stress, and so on. But the focus questions, which are positive, they can fuel a positive cocktail of these substances. So what I realized was that during my workshops, what I usually used to say the focus question I had was, how can I get through these 10 steps? Right? How can I cover every step? How can I start this to really grab their attention, then go to the next bit, and next bit, and next bit? And that is so self-centered. And that is where I went wrong. Because then I realized that my constant focus question was similarly, how can I perform? But the one I had to change to was, how can I make you grow? And when I just asked myself that and I looked at the person, I'm like, how can I make you grow? It's not about these 10 steps, man. It's about step 7 and 14. I didn't even think to include 14, but you need 14. We're doing 14.
Yep.
And that focus question just changed my entire approach to keynotes, to workshops, to books, to social media, etc.
Nice. I'm curious that because standing on stage in front of 1,000 people, yes, you command every word, you command what happens in the room. Now, going into a workshop, there has to be other kinds of challenges for you as the presenter, to be questioned, to be thrown off. You're giving a lot of value of the outcome back to the actual people in the room as well. Like you have to get them engaged enough to participate, do the exercises that you're doing. What would you say are the top things that you would advise someone to bring with them into a workshop?
Be competent. But I hope that's the case. Because if you're not competent, you shouldn't be doing the workshop. Knowledge can actually be hurtful. Like if you give the wrong person or the wrong advice to a person, that can be hurtful for the rest of their life. Like literally the amount of public speaking coaches that I've heard have given like a workshop advice in regards to body language, where they've gone like, "Oh, Lucas, you're using your hands too much. You just keep them still, keep them in your pocket." That's the advice. I've heard this so many times, it's almost saddening. So, and they learned this like 20 years ago. So for 20 years, they've not used functional gestures nor body language because someone somewhere told them that, which was an authoritative figure. So if you're doing workshops, see to that you are skilled in that subject, and not just the subject itself. So if you're going to go through these 10 bullets, see to that you know at least 40 else, which you can dive into and stray away from, and different angles and different directions. I think that's the most important thing in workshops, just to become. Don't take them for granted. You've got a person's faith in your hands. I'm absolutely sure that you are best-willed in the way that you're thinking, but truly know the subject. Learn the subject, apply the subject, I hope I'm not putting people off now, because workshops are amazing, but do the work. Like a person who holds workshops can literally earn as much money as a doctor and a lawyer.
Yeah.
But their education is 5, 7, 10 years. They don't take that for granted. But a person holding a workshop or a keynote can earn the same amount. So respect the time that you need to put in to know the subject truly.
Yeah. All right. Competence, key.
Competence is key, my friend. Yes.
Yeah. Right. Anything else you would like to add around workshops and your view and when you're going into them?
No, just learn to love them and go into that with one focus. How can I make you grow? And that will make just the entire difference. Like truly, that is game changing. Instead of going, how can I perform? How can I get through this 10? Yeah.
Big difference.
Big. Huge.
Yeah.
Massive.
Well, everything is in your mindset and the way you go into it. So if you're questioning yourself, you will be seen as questioning yourself. It will show. And you will not gain the outcome that you are wanting to get.
That is true. Questioning yourself. That actually leads us into our next episode.
Oh.
Which we will be recording.
Yes.
Yeah. Which is about self-doubt.
There we go.
And that's a good one.
Yes.
All right. But let's mic drop this one.
Yep. Stay tuned for self-doubt coming out next week. And if you like this podcast, this episode, please give us a thumbs up. Share the post about what you're listening to. Screenshot us. Tag us on social media. It will also mean the world if you just give a little 5-star review on your podcast player. It makes this podcast be seen and heard by more people and makes us want to grow it and keep on doing this. Also, if you're interested in presentation skills, you want to find out about more of our Presenter Mastery program, you can go to presentermastery.com/apply. We've gathered a lot of information about the course and our program, the coaching program, and you can also apply for a call with our team. So go in there if you're interested. Hope to see you.
Awesome chat, Lucas, as always.
Thank you.
Cheerio.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.